and welcome. This is India Tonight. I'm Shabani Gharat. Now, the Reserve Bank of India has cancelled the license of Paytm Payments Bank with immediate effect under Section 22 of the Banking Regulation Act. The central bank says the bank will not be allowed to carry out any banking business after the close of business on April 24th. Now, RBI has also said it will initiate winding up proceedings before the High Court. Importantly, the regulator has clarified that the bank has adequate liquidity to repay all the deposit liabilities. To discuss this, we are also joined in by my colleague Ankur, who's right here in the studio with us. And we also have a guest joining.
Yes,
it's the latest development that has happened just a few minutes ago, in fact.
Yes, definitely. And now Reserve Bank of India has now officially declared that the license of Paytm Payments Bank is non-functional. Remember, the ownership of Paytm Payments Bank, 49% was held by the parent company 197 Communications and 51% was by Vijay Shekhar Sharma. There has been several embargoes which were put in place for Paytm Payments Bank. It all started the span of 3 to 5 years, and finally in Jan 2024, Reserve Bank of India had put restrictions on customers as well as other business restrictions. And finally, it is kind of a closure of a saga which has happened from Reserve Bank of India, whereby it is declaring that the license has been cancelled and there will be winding down proceedings which will be initiated by Reserve Bank of India in High Court. To discuss this matter in detail, we have with us Ashwin Parekh, Managing Partner, Ashwin Parekh Advisory Services. Ashwin, first and foremost, I want to understand what does the rule says? Because now the winding petition will be filed in High Court. How will it impact the company per se?
You see, so company, let's say after all the liabilities are met with, will become defunct. As such, I mean, right from 22 onwards and thereafter in 24, and the regulator has very clearly said that the bank cannot admit new customers. Then in 24, they said that they cannot, I mean, they have to wind down their operations as well. And now, of course, in April 26, they've cancelled the license itself. So what it does mean is that the winding down process or the closure of the company procedure under the Companies Act will begin. The court order to wind down will be obtained. And then the company will have to meet with the liabilities, let's say, so to begin with, I mean, all the deposit holders and the wallet, let's say, credit holders will have to be repaid immediately. And then thereafter, there is a statutory waterfall kind of an arrangement under which, let's say, the liabilities will have to be met with. Some statutory liabilities may also be there. Then in the order in which, let's say, it's prescribed, this liability will have to be met with, basically. So, I mean, basically from now on, it's like just a matter of procedure and proceedings. I mean, there will be no more of Paytm banking. I mean, company as such, it cannot exist. It cannot conduct any business now.
Right. Just for the understanding, as I was seeing, the last pattern of the shareholding pattern of the company was 49% with 197 Communications, which is a listed entity, and 51% by Vijay Shekhar Sharma. Now, after this winding down is done, will they have to take some hit? Will the company take some hit?
Well, actually, it will all depend on. See, I mean, the narrative that we are getting today, there is an impression saying that as far as the deposit holders' money is concerned, and the wallet, let's say, credit holders or credit balance holders, their money is concerned, there is enough liquidity, there is enough money in the bank, let's say, to be able to pay that. After all that, and after all the statutory dues and all other, let's say, dues and creditors and everybody are met with, whatever is left will go back to the shareholders. Sort of, that's a provision of the Companies Act rather than it's a part of banking kind of regulation act or whatever. So under this arrangement, therefore, the same waterfall arrangement will have to, will have to be observed. Initially, of course, deposit holders and wallet credit account holders will get the money back, sort of,
So in simple understanding, after meeting, assets and liabilities, whatever is there with the bank, the remaining portion will be there for the shareholders, which is 197 Communication and Vijay Shekhar Sharma himself.
Yes, absolutely. In the same ratio in which they hold the shares, basically.
Now, one of the confusions for many of the customers might be there that whether or not there will be some impact on the Paytm services. And even I was having a discussion with Shivani on the same.
What will happen to the balance? What will happen to my wallet? Will it impact the Paytm services?
So for that, Paytm Payment Services Limited had already got license, payments aggregator license from Reserve Bank of India, and that was functioning. And in any case, for last 3 years, there was no business which was happening, particularly in Paytm Payments Bank after the embargo was there. So is this understanding correct, Mr.
That
Parekh?
is valid. Yeah, that
Yes.
is very valid. Paytm, let's say services, I mean, under the aggregator's license are distinctly different from the Paytm bank's sort of activities or operations. So therefore, and you are absolutely on spot. And when you say that in any case, their operations were closed down from 25 onwards. So therefore, I was maintaining that in all sort of right earnest, this is only a procedural part now. This had to happen basically. So, I mean, now that the license itself is cancelled, it will enable this organization to complete the winding down process, basically.
So it is more of a process driven, and in simple understanding, if I can put it, the bride and groom were already living separately. It is just a formal divorce announcement.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I mean, once again, I'll maintain that it has nothing to do with payment services. The Paytm services, which is a different, different service and a different entity altogether, basically.
But in terms of significance of a regulator cancelling a license under Banking Regulation Act, how much of the hit it is for a brand value for the company?
Well, reputation risk is huge. That, of course. I would certainly maintain that there is a huge reputation risk. But see, I'll tell you, there is one thing that must be clarified once again. See, when you're looking at payment service platforms, distinctly different from a banking entity, then they are merely platforms, basically. So, I mean, there's absolutely no balance that the platforms are allowed to keep. It's a pass-through kind of a platform arrangement. And to that extent, as long as people know and they choose to use this platform, there is no systemic issue or there is no sort of major issue in connection with that. Because as you know, on a back-to-back, all payments basically, the final platform over which the switching happens and the settlement happens is the NPCI. I mean, that's the either the UPI or the IMPS kind of environments under which the settlement and payment happens. Paytm services is a mere platform, basically, on which the transactions ride, basically.
Mr. Parekh, thank you so much for joining us and giving us a clarity on, the matter in which RBI cancels Paytm Payments banking license. And thank you, Ankur, for joining us in the studio today.
Our pleasure, and thank you so much, Mr. Parekh, for explaining in such detail.
Well, on that note, it is time for us to slip into a very short break. You don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching India Tonight. I'm Shabani Gharat. Now, amid reports that Iran delegation is heading to Pakistan for peace deal talks, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has said that U.S. action in Iran is a gift to the world. He also put the onus of the Hormuz conflict on Europe. Let's listen in.
This should not be America's fight alone. We barely use the Strait of Hormuz as a country. Our energy doesn't flow through there, and we have plenty of energy. Just look at the new global Congo line, headed to Texas. A beautiful picture. Europe and Asia have benefited from our protection for decades, but the time for free riding is over. America and the free world deserve allies who are capable, who are loyal, and who understand that being an ally is not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. We are not counting on Europe, but they need the Strait of Hormuz much more than we do.
Now, at SBI's new branch launch in Pune, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman underscores a tech-led, flexible approach for the banking sector and the necessary measures taken to curb the cyber risk. Let's listen in.
So yesterday's meeting was in that context. So all the while what we've had and therefore proved ourselves that we are careful and protective of our customers may not be sufficient. They need to be there, they need to improve, they need to grow. But we need something new and something far more versatile to be able to counter the newer threats which are likely to come. If there were difficulties because of the US tariff, we brought in a system through which any affected party, to the extent that they are exposed to the US market, we will give support. And that was launched even last year. So that is taking care of that particular IDBI disinvestment will go on. You knew it was publicly announced as to why it had to halt. We will still go on. Today our NPAs, gross or net, is at the lowest ever. इसीलिए asset quality का कोई विषय ही नहीं.
Now let's take a look at how the markets fared this week. Nifty snapped its two-week gaining streak, mainly due to the weak performance by IT stocks. While small cap were flat, mid cap index snapped its two-week gaining streak. Nifty IT, in fact, declined over 10%, snapping its five-week gaining streak. The index also registered its biggest weekly loss in 6 years. Meanwhile, Nifty FMCG is the top sectoral gainer for the third consecutive week. Now, moving on, sources to your channel suggest that Shapoorji Pallonji Group has proposed, in fact, payment of 25 basis point consent fee to bondholders. Remember, their arm, Goswami Infratech, has 14,300 crore rupee zero coupon bond due on April 30th, and this consent fee is being offered in exchange of extending maturity of the notes by 2 months. My colleague Anurag is here with more details.
Infrastructure-focused conglomerate Shapoorji Pallonji has proposed the payment of a consent fee of 25 basis points to the bondholders of one of its units. Shapoorji's unit, Goswami Infratech, has 14,300 crore of zero coupon bond, which is maturing on April 30. And the group has proposed the payment of the consent fee for the extension of this maturity by 2 months to June 30. Now, this one-time fee would be calculated on the principal outstanding according to sources, and this consent fee is being offered in exchange for extending the maturity of the notes. Goswami Infratech had issued the rupee bonds in June 2023 at an issue yield of 18.75%. These are zero coupon bonds which pay the amount on maturity. The securing the investor approval will allow Shapoorji Pallonji to extend this maturity to June 30. And according to sources, Shapoorji is on the verge of securing bondholder approval for the maturity extension. Separately, Shapoorji is also in discussions with certain lenders for securing refinancing of about 28,500 crore rupees, and part of the proceeds could be used to refinance the upcoming maturity. Volatility in the global markets and also the rupee's movement as a fallout of the geopolitical tensions and the war in West Asia are the key reasons for seeking the maturity deferrals, sources have told us. The 14,300 crore rupee bonds are secured against SP Group's about 18.4% equity stake in Tata Sons, which is held by two entities of Shapoorji Pallonji Group.
Thanks, Anurag, for those details. Now, U.S. markets are trading mixed, with S&P 500 edging higher as investors react to hopes of the fresh peace talks between the U.S. and Iran. Nasdaq is outperforming, supported by a sharp rally in Intel after the chip maker posted better than expected earnings. Meanwhile, the Dow is trading lower, weighed down by selective profit-taking. For the week, the S&P 500 is heading for a flat close. The Dow is on track for losses, while Nasdaq is set to end with modest gains. Now, moving on, the Department of Justice dropped its criminal investigation of Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, removing a major hurdle to President Donald Trump's nomination of Kevin Walsh to replace him. Powell was under probe for costly building renovations and headquarters in nation's capital, D.C. Now, U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro announced that Fed's Inspector General instead has been asked to scrutinize the building cost overruns in billions of dollars that have been borne by the taxpayers. Now moving on, India-US trade talks are back in focus with fresh momentum on interim agreement. A senior Indian delegation led by Chief Negotiator Darpan Jain was in Washington this week, with both sides claiming progress on key issues and agreeing to stay engaged as negotiations under the broader bilateral trade agreement move forward. My colleague Sumita is here with the details.
That's right, a trade team that visited US from the 20th to the 22nd of April for further round of negotiations on the trade deal. We're given to understand that multiple areas such as market access, non-tariff measures, technical barriers to trade, customs and trade facilitation, investment facilitation and promotion, economic security alignment, along with digital trade. Well, these were some of the aspects that were discussed in those 3 days of talks. Remember, the Indian side delegation was led by Darpan Jain, who was leading the delegation, and they met with USTR, the trade counterparts in the United States. The meetings, a Commerce Ministry statement suggests, that they enabled progress on key areas, and both the sides have agreed to remain engaged to maintain the momentum going forward. Remember, before going to the visit, we were given to understand from Commerce Ministry sources that this visit was aimed to finalize the details of the interim agreement to take forward the negotiations under the broader bilateral trade agreement. In fact, the trade team was expected to also have discussions on the quantum of tariff reduction that could be expected and investigations related to Section 301, which should be completely taken away. But there's not been any clarity on those 2 points, whether, how much of tariff reduction is India finally going to see, what the new trade architecture is going to be, especially when it comes to, the striking down of the IEEPA tariffs by the Supreme Court. So what is it that both the sides are taking as the final trade authority, the final tariff, are moving on with that? There's no clarity on that. There's also no clarity on whether the matter related to investigations related to Section 301, that was discussed. We were given to understand that this would be discussed because these investigations are not really applicable in India, but they have been announced by Donald Trump. And of course, these investigations are currently going on.
Now, Raghav Chadha has announced that he will join the BJP. He also claims that 6 other MPs from Rajya Sabha are with him and they will merge with the BJP, which means 2/3 of AAP MPs from Rajya Sabha are shifting parties. This means that these MPs have successfully bypassed anti-defection law. Listen into what Raghav Chadha had to say.
आज हम एक ऐसे मोड़ पर खड़े हैं कि हमारे पास सिर्फ 2 ही ऑप्शंस थे, 2 विकल्प थे। या तो हम राजनीति छोड़ दें और पिछले 15-16 साल जो हमने सार्वजनिक जीवन में काम किया उसे त्याग दें, या फिर हम अपने अनुभव को, अपनी स्किल्स को, अपनी पूरी ऊर्जा और एनर्जी को लेकर पॉजिटिव पॉलिटिक्स करें। इसीलिए हमने ये डिसाइड किया दैट वी द 2/3 members of parliament of the belonging to the Aam Aadmi Party in Rajya Sabha exercise the provisions of the Constitution of India and merge ourselves with the BJP. हम बीजेपी में विलय करते हैं।
राघव चड्ढा को पार्टी ने विधायक बनाया, सांसद बनाया, क्या क्या नहीं दिया। पंजाब के लोगों ने, पंजाब की जनता ने कितना प्यार दिया, राज्यसभा में पहुंचाया। आप भारतीय जनता पार्टी की गोदी में पहुंच गए। संदीप पाठक को पंजाब की जनता के प्यार और आशीर्वाद से राज्यसभा में पहुंचने का मौका मिला। पार्टी ने बड़ी बड़ी जिम्मेदारियां दी।
Well, Raghav Chadha also claims that 7 MPs from Rajya Sabha will join BJP as well along with him. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Tonight. Goodbye from me, Shubhani Gharat, and the entire team of ET Now.